Hello and welcome to another edition of the CEBL show. I'm your host, Sean Woodley, here with co-host Amy Audibert. Amy, how's it going?
It's going. It's a wonderful Wednesday. The sun's out. We're getting closer to that June 5th CEBL kickoff. I'm good, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing okay. This is the first CEBL show being recorded on my new computer. I hope I look nice with the webcam and all that stuff for anyone watching the video clip. Hopefully nothing goes awry with this new thing. I'm still testing the waters. You know, when you get a new computer and it's just like nothing is how I like it. Everything's out of place. My desktop is full of stuff I don't need. My computer's not slow anymore because I don't have 10,000 files saved on it. So that's good. But yeah, bit of a weird adjustment period going
now. I call that positive problems, Sean. Positive.
Yeah,
problems.
it is one of them good problems. That's for sure. So we got a lot to get to today, Amy. The free agency wheel continues to spin around the CEBL. Some big names signed in the last couple of weeks since last we spoke. In addition, the USports Draft, by the time you hear this, will have been announced. The players selected by through 3 rounds by all 7 teams in the CEBL all will be known to the world by the time you're hearing this. And there's some pretty interesting names to sort through there. Also, on today's show, we're going to be joined by Charles Kissi, who's the head coach and GM of the Guelph Nighthawks, who are making some waves. They've signed a lot of high profile, I would say, import players. They have some competition for their import players coming into camp. And also I think to me, just sort of looking at the cursory list of guys picked in the draft, I think they did pretty well in terms of taking guys in the USports Draft to add to their mix. They've got a couple spots left on their roster. They just signed Canadian Justin Jackson as well, which is a big move. So they're going to be a fascinating team. We're going to talk to Charles Kissi all about that, all about the USports Draft, the connection between USports and the CEBL coming up in just a little bit here. But we should dive into some free agency news before we get to all that. I guess the one that stands out to me from the last couple of weeks is Cady Gray, who, if you aren't familiar, you should go back and watch his tape from USports because the dude was a monster. He was the best player in USports for 4 years running, playing for Laurentian. He was outstanding, and he has been signed by our pal Javon Shepard, the last guest on the podcast, and the Ottawa Blackjacks. What was your reaction to this news, Amy? He was drafted, I believe, in the last USports Draft, did not play in the season last year due to just some complications with COVID and things like that and logistics and all that. But Cady Gray playing in the CEBL this year should be a ton of fun.
Yeah, big time, right? Props to Ottawa. Big congratulations to them because I think this is a guy that any of the 7 teams would have their arms wide open and say, come play, right? Don't forget, this is a league that it's like 80% Canadians. Now, this is a guy that's Canadian, but that's a bad thing. But I'm just saying, this is one of the top Canadians out there. And so you saw what he did. I think it was like 81 games he played at Laurentian and average was about 26, 7 and 6 assists. Like he's just super dynamic. What I'm really excited to see is the matchup here with possibly an Xavier Moon. I mean, let's go. So this is a big signing for Ottawa.
Yeah, the last season, Cady Gray played for Laurentian, 20 games played for Laurentian, 24.4 points, 8 boards, 7 assists on 43% shooting from 3, 51% overall from the field. This is a guy who was kind of flirting with maybe he's going to get some late NBA draft, undrafted free agent consideration. He's a very good player, one of the best players we've seen in Canadian university sport in, I guess, ever, frankly. He's really, really good. He's got the call to the national team already as well, and played some games nationally. He is going to be a player to watch, and I'm curious to see sort of how he fits into that Ottawa mix as Javon Shepard continues to build that team out. A couple other signings as well. Xavier Sneed, an import signing on with the Niagara River Lions, played for Kansas State as a G League guy as well. And we're seeing this continue, Amy. Guys with G League experience, guys who played down south, looking at the CEBL, guys who are not Canadians either, realizing, oh, hey, there's a league up there. I can make some money. I can play. And, we've seen throughout the run of the league, a lot of the sort of anchors of these teams have been imports with G League experience. I think back to, for example, Demetrius Denzel Dyson in the first year of the league for Hamilton, one of the best players in the league, a 3-and-D sort of wing who also could kind of create and run the offense. And I think you're going to see we've seen a lot of these guys, G League, alums who are moving up to the CEBL. And as we talked about with Javon Shepherd a couple weeks back, the fact that the G League season was so short that there aren't that many jobs going on right now, I think it's only going to increase the pipeline and the competition for those spots. And that's something I want to talk to Charles Kissi about later today, because they've got, a lot of imports involved. And I'm curious if there's going to be competition for those spots. They're going to bring more guys in just to kind of see who rises up and see if the cream rises. That's going to be a fascinating subplot here going forward here too, Amy.
Yeah. And I mean, just to further on the G League this year, Sean, if you had a spot in the G League and you figured out a way to somewhat survive in it, you're doing well, because the talent pool was ridiculous. So when you look at an Xavier Sneed, who did play with Greensboro, so Charlotte's affiliate, he averaged 8, 4, and 2 assists. And I think it's about 22 minutes or so. So like, that's pretty efficient, right? That's a guy that got in there. He played 13 games, 10 starts. So this is a guy that you could say put on a bit of he had some nice production at that G League level this past season. And so it's big time, right? These are guys that are one step away from the NBA. Now you're drawing them into the CEBL, and all of a sudden we've got a handful of guys that, that they were getting looks for that NBA level. This is exactly what the league would like.
We're going to talk about Justin Jackson with Charles Kissi coming up a little bit later here. Probably the biggest signing since last we spoke 2 weeks ago. But I do want to also remark upon a bit of news that came down last week, and that Merrick Clausen has re-signed with the Fraser Valley Bandits. And we got to give Merrick Clausen some love here. This is a guy who has been in the league every year of its existence, been a champion of the league. He was, of course, part of that Fraser Valley team that started off horribly, mostly because he didn't get over from overseas until midway through that season in year one, and then kind of steadied the ship, turned things around. Last year, he kind of takes a bit of a step back in his role as Junior Cadogan kind of takes over that team. They had a lot of, Jahens Manigat's on that team as well, and a lot of guard talent that kind of pushes Merrick Clausen a little bit to the side. He came off the bench for most of the summer series, if I recall, but he's back now with Fraser Valley. And I can only assume he's going to kind of reassume that role, where I believe he led the league in assists in his first year and is going to kind of be that floor general for Fraser Valley. I know you did like a lot of your homework on all these guys throughout the CEBL last year. Some thoughts on Merrick Clausen and what he brings back to the Fraser Valley Bandits back for year 3.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great basketball player, and congratulations to him. I think he's an awesome guy too. He was so nice to just chat with, really cool personality and laid back. But take that off the table, Sean, and just an incredible leader. This is a guy who, like you said, maybe his role was somewhat on a box score, looked like it was a step back, but he was such a huge voice for them. Don't forget, this is a team that played in championship game last year. And I say Merrick Clausen was a big reason why. He was a voice in the locker room. I think he automatically clicked with Kyle Julius. And so that's going to be interesting this year. Obviously, I think the philosophies are the same with Fraser Valley, even though KJ is not right here. So I think in some ways that almost gives Merrick a bigger voice. I'm sure the relationship is still pretty consistent with these wonderful things we have called cell phones, texting, right? So I think Merrick is a huge cornerstone to what the Bandits did and want to continue to do. And so I'm really excited for him to return. I think it is home for him, right? And I'm excited for him to actually get to play at home this season too, right? Hey, I'm a Niagara native. Nothing's wrong with the Niagara area, but when you're used to playing out west, and then all of a sudden you're in this, it's not a bubble, but a safety zone, if you will, a safe site in the Meridian Center. And so I'm excited for him to get back to his roots as well.
Stunning to me that Robert Sacre would seek to bring back a chill, relaxed BC boy such as himself. It seems like pretty good synergy between front office and player there.
I would love just to be a fly on the wall and just they probably just sit around and don't even say much, just look at each other like, yeah, I got you. It's like they can, that would be a very cool conversation to listen in on.
No doubt. Speaking of cool conversations to listen in on, Charles Kissi is going to join us here in just 1 second. We're going to dive into the USports Draft. We're going to dive into the free agent signings going on over in Guelph as well, and what to expect from the third year of the Guelph Nighthawks with Charles Kissi, GM and head coach of the Nighthawks. That's coming up in just 1 second. All right, joining us now on the CEBL show is the head coach and general manager, returning once again for his second and a half season, I suppose, with the Guelph Nighthawks. Of course, a Raptors 905 assistant, former head coach of the Brock Badgers in the OUA. It's Charles Kissi. Charles, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'm surviving like everybody else, making the most of this pandemic time, but pretty good. How are you guys doing?
We're holding up all right. It's nice talking to you. It's certainly a nice way to spend a Wednesday. There's nothing wrong with that. Thanks for being here with us, and busy times. We really appreciate the time considering all that's going on. Less than 2 months away now from the start of the CEBL season. I guess, the first overall sort of overarching question is, how are the preparations going? Do you feel like you're getting ready? Obviously, the roster's filling out a little bit here. The USports Draft just went down today. Are you feeling like you're going to be prepared? Is it difficult because of the whole COVID of it all, making that process more tricky? How are things going in terms of the lead up to the season for Guelph?
They're going pretty well. I mean, we have a pretty solid plan in terms of, where we should be and what we need to get done. I certainly have those moments where I'm like, oh man, training camp's in a month, and oh geez, like, we got to get this and this done. But overall, I feel like we're progressing pretty well. I think we still have a spot to fail, and but I love where we're at so far as our roster composition, and just our medical teams in play. Like, we have some really good things that are coming along, and we're going to be ready to go. I'm slowly starting to build this excitement towards the season. I think from my perspective, it's like just, hammer off one thing at a time, and you don't think too far ahead, but I'm slowly starting to get some excitement, which is nice.
Before we get into the U-Sport Draft, we do want to ask about a couple of your recent signings. And look at this big smile, Mr. Justin Jackson. This is a guy that's been hurt and different injuries. And then I think this year when he checked in the G League game, we were just so happy to see him on the court and starting to play. So can you kind of talk about this acquisition, share what you can, and then maybe some expectations for Justin this season?
Yeah, I think, Justin, I, and maybe you too, maybe all of you were at his game with the 905 where he got hurt, right? Where we watched him go down. And I think a lot of us on the bench kind of knew, you kind of get a sense of what these injuries are after a while and what they look like. And so, it's sort of neat to bring him back and to help him. But yeah, it was great to watch him in the bubble. And, it was a lot of up and down for him. He's had a long road to try to get back. You know what, honestly, for us, it's really trying to help him get back. I mean, for us, it's, we know where his aspirations lay. He wants to get to the NBA, and I can say that outright. And our job is to help him do that. Our job is to try to prepare him, get him to, help rebuild his confidence, get him playing the way we all know he's capable of playing, and give him that opportunity. And that's what we're going to focus on doing. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to go out and score 50 points a night. That's not what it's about. It really is about just trying to help him, rebuild that confidence, get those touches, get his legs back, and just sort of get up and down and get that rhythm back that we all know you need, right? That confidence that, you need to perform at the level that, he's capable of performing at.
To you, does it say something about the quality of the league and sort of the work the league has done to sort of build itself up in the first couple of years that a guy like Justin Jackson, a former NBA draft pick, says, oh, this is a pathway for me to potentially get back to the NBA where I want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the league is everyone, I'll credit Mike, but his whole staff, Mike Morial and his whole team, they work tirelessly to make this thing happen. And obviously, I mean, and I've been saying this, and I'm sure it's been said, but COVID's actually helped this league. I know that sounds terrible. And now let me qualify that. It's not a good thing overall, COVID. But in terms of, if you're looking at some positives, effects, the league is going to benefit in that it's going to be, once again, because of the preparation and the work that's being put in to bring it back to be the only league sort of up and running in the summer. That organization, again, commend those guys and gals for making that happen. But a lot of players, the downside of COVID for a lot of athletes, just speaking specifically to that, is that there's just fewer places to play and far fewer opportunities for them to showcase. And we've had people now out for a year, potentially going on year 2. they got, you need to play. There's a reality. And as you're sitting out, there's another crop of players graduating from leagues, graduating from the NCAA, graduating from USport, graduating from wherever, and looking to take these spots. So the demand has just risen, through the roof. And obviously the supply is there. I'm just speaking from a business sense. And so the league has benefited tremendously from that. And the caliber of talent you're going to see throughout the league is got to be like night and day. And I say this respectfully, but night and day to where it has been. And that's what you want, right? Like, I mean, the league is growing in many ways, business and product and on-court product and talent. And that's what you want. This league that was the mission of the league and the focus. And I can say they are far from done as far as where this is going to go.
Okay, before we get into the draft, one more quick one for you, a little bit more personal. You look at some of these big names, Justin, we talked, Diamond Stone, which feels like it was 5 years ago because that was one of the big first signings, right? But when I spoke to Jama Malalela, one of your mentors and coaches last year, and we talked about you and coach, he said that you're one of the more elite people in terms of reading a room. And when you look at these big guys that are signing and they're trusting Charles Kissi and the Guelph Nighthawks with their playing careers, their livelihoods, that's big time. And so for your ability to come in and read a room, is that a skill or is that is that just the it factor that you've always had? Let's give a little psychoanalysis here. Tell us your secrets.
Well, listen, I say there's multiple things, and I'll get a couple things. One, I always say to coaches, and I think I might have said this a couple of days ago to a room of younger coaches, that you take every experience to your coaching. Coaching isn't like this separate thing, and no one's job for the most part, unless you're a surgeon, is like this separate thing. You bring parts of you. So I police, for example, there's aspects that I bring to my job, and I'm a father. There's aspects that I bring to my job. So that's been one that I've always sort of done well. I do believe it's a skill, but it's a skill not necessarily acquired through coaching, just life and other jobs that I've had. But ultimately it comes down to people. Like, some people are really great at the X's and O's. I tend to focus on trying to be really great at people. And managing, players and, holding them accountable or building those relationships and building authentic relationships. I'm not the fake, like high five, guy. That's not me. I want to get to know who you are as an individual, what wakes you up in the morning, and find out what truly motivates you, and everyone has different motivation. It's not everyone is in the game to win. Just like not everyone is in the game to make $1 trillion. So you got to figure that out. And I think that's something I've always placed an emphasis on. And as I would say to Gemma, I want to know who I can go to war with, and I want to know on day one, and so I don't want to find out, in the final game of, the biggest game of the year or whatever, who's, not prepared or who's doesn't have it, and so that's been a big thing for me. I guess I don't want to I'll call it a skill. Sure. Let's do that. Let's call it a skill, but it's something that I certainly pay attention to, work on, read about. My leadership, all of that is important for me. I think the X's and O's you can acquire. The human element is trickier. You can watch videos, you can work on the X's and O's, but the human element is just far more complex. And I think to be great in coaching, that's one of the things you have to master, because the X's and O's won't always win games for you. It will win some games for you, but your players running through a brick wall for you. I mean, you look at the NCAA tournament, you look at any tournament, you look at any teams, right? Oftentimes those players are willing to do anything to compete, not only for each other, but for their staff and their coaches. But I always tend to have them do it for themselves first. And then if they like me, great. But I think at the end of the day, yeah, it's a little bit of a focus, a priority for me as a leader, as a coach.
Do you find that skill building is kind of accelerated and even more important in a league like this, where you have new guys coming in every year? It's a shortened season. Guys have different motivations. Some guys want to get to the NBA. Some guys just want to get their first job and find a way overseas. And there's all these sort of conflicting paths that come together on this one team. And we've seen it happen before in the CEBL, where the personalities don't quite mesh, and a team can not quite get out of the gate. I mean, you think of Guelph before you took over, frankly, that I think was very much a thing that was going on. Do you find that getting to coach in this league really helps you with that sort of person to person management of personalities and sort of getting everybody on the same page, as opposed to, maybe like an NBA coach where who's on your team, I think we've heard a lot from, Ryan Schmidt, of course, your rival down the street in Hamilton. And even Nick Nurse has talked about the importance of just getting to be a head coach in a weirdo league like this, where things are a little bit sort of unpredictable. Has that helped you, do you think, in terms of that overarching skill development?
I think getting to coach anywhere helps you do it. I really don't know that it's that different in the NBA, where there's so much more involved in terms of the money is bigger. The pressure is certainly bigger. There's so many other factors at play there. So I think it would be, it's hard there like it's hard here. It's just different. It's hard here like it is hard at a university. It's just different. But it's certainly a thing. And that team dynamics is something that, we've all seen lots of talented teams fall flat because they just couldn't get together, right? They couldn't play for each other. They couldn't buy in. They maybe to a degree, coach or coaching staff couldn't align their motivations, right, to get them to perform. And so many different factors, but we've all seen all of that. I don't know that it matters. I do agree with Coach Nurse in that you got to coach, right? You got to get those reps, just like anything, just like both of you as professionals, you just have to get reps. I mean, me walking in to do your job would be like, impossible, because you're just
it's not that hard.
Easy, buddy. Easy.
You're just so much better at it because
you don't want to do this.
No, but you've just done it, right? And so I think I agree with that point in that, doing the job and getting those reps makes a big difference. But when you do those jobs, understanding that it's not just, it's multifaceted. It's about getting to know your players. It's about, sure, the X's and O's. It's about managing your staff. It's about, on and on and on and on. There's more than just, it's all of that contributes to potentially winning and losing and winning championships or not, or all those types of things, right? And how do you manage all that? I think leadership matters. I really do. I think it has a vital role to play in how your team operates. And so again, if you're coaching, I'd say, you think about all those parts, and getting those reps as a head coach, or even now as a GM, they matter, and it makes a big difference. And so I focus on it. I make it a priority to try to get good at it.
Okay, so we talked about the USports Draft, something that maybe you have a big time edge on of the 6 other GMs or head coaches in this league. You played at MAC high level, then you head coach at Brock. You get them to the championship weekend, top 8 in the country. So you know the evolution of this league maybe more than anybody. Can you speak a little bit on that? And now you're a GM and you're looking at the league and you're scouting the league compared to when you played versus where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it was interesting because I remember having conversations with Richard Pecco in the office at Brock when they were thinking about this idea of this league. It's been neat to see the evolution. I got to admit, it's been really cool to see, things progress, and even all the people in the offices sort of moving into different spaces. It's been neat to see, and it's been really cool to be a part of it because it's just like ground floor. And again, I feel like it has so much more room to grow. And one of the reasons why it's exciting. So there's one thing about potential, and then there's another thing about having the people willing to see it and drive it in that direction, which is really what it excites me, right? Is that the people involved want it to get there, and it's going to get there. And so, it's I don't know if it's an edge for me to have seen that, but I think it certainly is exciting, and it's motivating, and it makes you invest in it. Like it makes you actually want it to succeed. This isn't just another job for me. Sure, I benefit from the experiences that I'm getting and, that portion of it, but you want to be good at it to help this league progress. You're now like bought in almost, right? So I think that's I guess the advantage, but I'm sure everybody feels the same way.
So 3 players were taken by Guelph in the USports Draft, which, again, by the time you're hearing this, the draft order will have been announced. You got Isaiah Osborne in the first round out of Carleton. Everyone knows, so at least anyone who follows OUA basketball knows about Carleton and Isaiah Osborne. Jordan Henry, a guy with some national team experience, I believe on that U18 team with RJ Barrett that won gold a few years back. He's been tearing it up for Patrick Tatum's McMaster team for the last couple of years. Then you get Cole Long at a Memorial University. Not going to lie, I have not watched any Memorial University basketball games recently, but you do end up with those 3 guys. I guess my question is, like, what goes into the preparation process for a draft featuring players you haven't seen play in over a year? And, we might not see them again for 6 more months. I can't imagine how difficult it would have been. Did you lean further on interviews, things like that? What was the process behind doing a draft where there is no tape from this previous season?
Yeah, it's a lot of youth sport coaches, right? There's just
right.
people that have seen them and that have been paying attention to it and know the players a little bit better. Their coaches obviously play a role in that, and really just it's about our team. So what do we need? What type of player do we need, and what might fit, and who might be the most ready at this particular time to contribute, and those types of things, right? You got to ask yourself, but. I think there's, lots of film watching from previous years, from other years. And you also have to remember, and this is no disrespect, but a lot of the players, I guess what makes it difficult, they're not going to be used the way they're used in youth sport a lot of times, right?
Right.
Like, you're not going to have, whatever. You're not going to have a 6'5" post necessarily, he's not going to be posting up for us. So it's, you have to sort of be able to gauge them outside sometimes of how they're being used and see if, can they fit the role that you're probably going to ask them to play should they, step, or when they step on the floor. So I think that's the other sort of challenge that you're navigating a little bit beyond not really having seen them play. And even me, some of these guys, I was gone for 2 years, almost 3 now, but I would not have seen a lot of them play. So,
right.
I mean, who they are, but it's a little different. So I definitely rely on a lot of youth sport coaches and some of our staff to just watch the film and provide assessments and reports and, all the analytics and all that stuff. But I think there's a talented class, and I think we have we're happy with who we selected, and I think there's a lot of young, talented players that will, make their stamp on the league. But it'll be challenging. And I said to all of our guys is that, our team is significantly better than it was. And so, the level of the youth sport player I guess the challenge is we'll have to continue to rise. If this league continues to rise, it's going to have to continue to get better because, it's just very good. I don't know. I just think I look around the league and I think it's very good. Not to say that the youth sport level isn't rising, but this year off certainly doesn't help. And another year potentially is certainly not going to help. And we're going to have to figure that out, I guess, as a question for youth sport more than the league, I guess.
I would ask one more quick question for you though.
Yeah.
So if let's say you draft a youth sport guy who ends up going back to university, because I know you can draft 5th years that are done. Obviously, there's a lot of advantages for that player off the court, sure. On the court. Some things can be measured, some things can't. But in your opinion, what do you think is the single most important thing that young man picks up at the CEBL and takes back to his university program?
Ooh.
I know.
I would maybe say just like being in a pro environment, what that's like. I mean, I think the experience of being around some of the players on all the different teams, is beneficial, habits, how you carry yourself, whatever it might be. I'm not saying that they don't learn that at university, but you're not in a pro environment. It's just different. I think that would be one. And then I think that hopefully you learn the fine line, how good you really need to be. As this league gets better, I think it'll continue to show that. I think, the difference between you shooting 33% and shooting 36%, you look at guys like Henry Ellenson. I know we've talked about Henry lots before, who, really wanted to focus in the G League bubble about, shooting it over 40, I think he said 43 or 44%, because like those are some of the small differences. And he would normally might shoot at 40%, but that's just not enough, right? Like, so I think hopefully that those aspects of refining your game to a point where you add very specific value to a team, and that you're not everything to everyone. Because when you become a pro, unless you're LeBron, you're not doing it all. Unless you're Westbrook, Westbrook is able to average a double-double or triple-double because they let him do everything. But most of his teammates do not get to do everything. And so those differences, I think, what value do you add, and sort of learning that, I think is important for them as well. I think there's a lot of benefit that youth sport players can take from these experiences.
I know, having spoken to a couple of U Sports coaches who had guys go to the CEBL for year one and come back, there is certainly like I'm very happy this guy went and played in that league sort of vibe when I talked to them. I know Patrick Tatum had that to say about Connor Gilmore, for example, who got some run with Hamilton in year one and just sort of coming back. And it's like, oh, it's like a new guy. He's just like a seasoned, almost professional now playing in U Sports, and it's just kind of a level up type of thing. I'm curious, Charles, we've seen throughout the league in the first couple of years different philosophies when it comes to using U Sports guys in the rotation. We've seen some teams really kind of lean into it and make it a priority to play guys. Some teams out of desperation have had to play guys a little bit longer run. For example, Lloyd Pandy last year, coming in as an emergency replacement for one of the Scrub brothers in Ottawa, becomes the U Sports Player of the Year and was outstanding kind of out of necessity, and somehow fell down to like 13th in the draft. I'm not sure how that happened, but I mean, good for Niagara for landing him, I suppose. What's your general philosophy when it comes to the U Sports guys? Are you trying to find a spot for them, or is it more of a player by player thing where, all right, this guy's super talented and he's going to help our team win right now, versus, maybe leaning into the development side of things as well? Do you feel a responsibility even to get those U Sports guys some run, considering they're in the league for a reason?
I can hear Cameron Cush in the back of my head right now. Answer carefully, Kissi. Answer carefully. This is what I think. I think that for me personally, I want to win.
Right.
I want the best players I can find, and at all positions, and to sort of figuring it out. And so if it happens to be a U Sport player, great. That's what I think. I think I'll leave it there. I think I just want the best players I can find. And great if it's a U Sport player. The league has a situation right now where, you have to have a U Sport player on the roster. And so we pick one. And so we pick multiple. And not to say they're not ready or they're not good enough or any of that. It's just, I think, I don't know if I would replace a U Sport player with Justin Jackson right now. I think that's fair, right? And so, if I could find another Justin Jackson, I'm not going to lie, I would take another Justin Jackson.
Sure.
It's just the way it is. I'm just being honest. So, but with that said, I think it's a great partnership in the sense that the U Sport athletes get a great opportunity. To me, I just more hope that they don't waste it. Like, what a great opportunity, right? Like, what an incredible opportunity for you to get some pro experience, to get this experience, whether to take back to your team or just catapult and begin your career. And so that's how I look at it. I mean, I just want the best players. This is a professional basketball league. I want the best possible players. It's just kind of that simple for me.
And hey, I mean, it's not like you don't have one of the great U Sports success stories who's been part of Guelph for the first couple of years. Miles Jarvis has been outstanding and has become a better player year over year.
100%. And that's a great example of, and there's others, right? Like there's JV Mukama, like there's other players who are ready to go. And so believe me, I think everyone would take JV, and everyone would take Miles. Like, I think there's other players that are ready to go. I think you just want to make sure that they're always ready to go and that there's enough players ready to go. And that's just how I look at it. But again, for me, it's like, I just, in winning a championship here in Guelph, I want the best players I can find. And that's kind of where I leave it.
Does it pain you to shut out those Ryerson guys as a Brock man?
I only have loyalties to Guelph Nighthawks right now. So you know what? I mean, listen, like those, you, especially when it's over. I mean, look at it. I'm really trying to help Miles further his career. that's what I've always kind of felt U Sports should be, not this like division of like Carleton versus Brock versus, yeah, sure, when you're competing, but at the end of the day, in terms of growing the league, everyone needs to be working to develop the talent. Everyone needs to be working to provide the opportunities because it's better for the league overall. I've always said this, and I'll say it here, like having Carleton be the only good team for 20 years is not a really great look, I don't think, for the league overall, right? And there's been other good teams, don't get me wrong. Calgary's won, Brock's won, like Saskatchewan's won, other teams have won. But I think, the overall, like when you said it from the outset, well, everybody knows Carleton, right? Like that's sort of the narrative. And I think, and that's not on Carleton. They've done their job, that's not on them at all. I think, as a league, we got to continue to aspire to finding some parity and not Carleton's fault. They've done their work. The rest of the league has to make sure we figure out how to get there, to provide that parity. And so I think, we have to support each other. We got to support our athletes. We have to really give everyone the best possible experience and the best possible development opportunities to get them to that level. I just think that's the
Cameron's
bottom line.
happy again. You're fine.
Yeah,
Cameron's
Cameron's
happy again. You're good. You're good.
Had to go wash my mouth out. I'm joking. Totally joking.
We appreciate your candid conversations. Let's say that.
Yeah, it is what it is. I have a soft spot for youth sport because it's been a major part of my coaching development, and I've just always said that we can do better. That's all. I just always said that we could do better as a league, as coaches, as all of it. We could just do better for our athletes. They deserve better, and our coaches deserve better, and all of the above. So I'll leave that there.
Well, Charles, as much as it pains me to agree with you that Carleton, the greatest basketball program I'm a Carleton man. Full disclosure. As much as it pains me to agree with you that parity will be good at some point, doesn't exist yet, baby.
Hats off. They've been good.
Yeah.
They've done a good job.
Yeah,
I'm
totally responsible for all of their success. Is the thing. I'm choosing to give myself
It's like a national
credit.
holiday when someone gets close. Let's say that, right? It's like the most exciting day of the year when someone got close.
Oh man,
At the Meridian Center game, Coach, I remember that one.
So much fun. So much fun.
Everything but the win.
Well, Charles. Oh, it's sorry. We want to thank you so much for taking the time today. We've taken far too much of your time, and we really appreciate you chatting with us. And we look forward to Guelph this season. Diamond Stone. We've got Isaiah Reese. There's Justin Jackson. It's going to be a ton of fun. Can't wait to see you guys hit the floor on June 5th or thereabouts, I suppose. I'm not sure when your first game actually is, but June 5th, the season starts.
Yeah.
June 8th. Perfect. You got a little extra time to prepare in this very bizarro season. Can't wait to check out the Nighthawks and to follow your success all the way through. Charles, thanks so much.
Thank you. Looking forward to getting back on the floor.
And that will do it for today's episode of the CEBL show. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your podcasts on your favorite podcast provider. Check out all of our other content over at cebl.ca. Keep track of the transactions, keep track of the schedule, all that great stuff. And of course, tickets might be a thing sometime in the near future here too, potentially, if anyone can get their crap figured out in these governments. But the CEBL will be ready whenever the time comes to have fans back in the building. So we appreciate your support, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks' time with another episode of the CEBL show. For Amy Audibert, I'm Sean Woodley. Bye-bye.